Welcome everyone, Christine here with a discussion about Total War Warhammer 3, Tides of Torment, which Creative Assembly has delayed, so it's not going to be coming out this summer. In fact, I was pretty skeptical already that it was going to come out this summer, or maybe we would have gotten a situation where it was coming at the very end of summer, but apparently they've decided to delay that. So they're delaying it from our previously stated summer release window and now intend to launch it later this year. When exactly? It wouldn't surprise me if it was October. We'll find out. We will have an exact date for you once we finalize our revised plans, and we'll share details as soon as they're ready. We also want to let you know that our plans to release the final What's Next video in the series will also shift out to a future date. But they did reveal which of the races they're going to do third as part of Tides of Torment. They explained the decision because in recent playtesting, so it's clear that they were doing QA testing at this point, right? The DLC was probably going to come out either at the end of the month or early August at this stage, maybe middle August at worst. But they were doing testing. And we asked ourselves if this next DLC met the standards that we set in recent releases. And the short answer was no. Now, obviously, it's very frustrating to hear news like that, but I'm going to say this outright. I do not believe Omens of Destruction was a great DLC from a paid content perspective. You look at Skulltaker's campaign, exactly phenomenal. You look at Gorbad's campaign, not exactly phenomenal. I do like the Khorne rework, I like units, etc. But the actual campaigns, they leave a lot to be desired. So I'm happy from the perspective that CA has realized that we don't want another experience like that. Thrones of Decay was amazing. Omens of Destruction was great from the perspective of all the free stuff they were doing in units, etc., like Ashen Man-Eaters, Wrathmongers, etc. Really good stuff. But the actual individual campaigns, the paid ones, not really that great. When the best part of your DLC is the free campaign, so the Ogre stuff, Arbol, the free stuff basically already existed in game that's been changed, or the free campaign with Arbol, then you have a problem, I think. And I believe that based on this post, that was probably where we are heading with regards to the Tides of Torment DLC. And these changes will likely mean the content we shared in our What's Next videos for Slaanesh and Norska is no longer accurate. Now, that's an interesting point, but it does make me wonder what exactly are they going to change? I'd be very surprised if they decide to go with different Legendary Lords. Anything's possible, though. But most likely it's going to be some of the units. Not that they shared a lot of information on that subject, but I guess we'll find out. So, we know it's disappointing. 2025 has been a slower year, and we're not oblivious to that. We're proud of the updates that we've released for the game this year, but we know that what you love most about this game is the option to experience more of it. Okay, so they do give us plans about what they're going to be doing over the next few months. In July, we're going to get Siege improvements in the Proving Ground, so we're going to get beta testing for Siege changes. Now, it's interesting they worded like this with improvements, because what they really need is a rework. Sieges need to be rebuilt from the ground up. But there's a lot of problems. Probably make a number of videos on the subject, not that I already don't have them, but still, it's always worth talking about that. Ahead of its release, we'll share details on what's being changed, what we're testing for, and process on how we will handle your feedback before integrating changes into the main game. So we're probably going to get 2 beta patches on the subject of sieges or something along those lines, or at least one, and maybe the final one, the final improvements will be coming alongside Tides of Torment as the DLC, whenever it does come out. So it's not going to come out in July, nor August, based on what they're writing here. Update 6.3 is going to bring some overdue quality of life improvements to the Tomb Kings and Lizardmen. Now, when we talk about quality of life improvements, what are we talking about here? Are we talking about racial rework, economy improvement? I mean, there's certainly some things they can do for Tomb Kings that make their campaigns much better. For instance, they can change the Books of Nagash system, they can change the way they handle unit capacity, our army capacity systems, etc. That will help a lot. And it's not, and believe it or not, those are not necessarily substantive changes. They're not difficult to implement, those kind of things. Like, there's already mods that can improve those things very easily. But we'll see about Lizardmen. I think the problem with Lizardmen is the way Lustria works, or the way jungle works in general. It's not just a question of Lizardmen as a race, it's the jungle inherently in itself. And all of that paired with the usual host of minor gameplay fixes, bug squashing, and battle balance update for folks playing in multiplayer. And then September, we're saving space in September for any necessary hotfixes following August's release of 6.3. Otherwise, our total focus is on Tides of Torment from here on out. We won't have any major updates planned for release in September, but we'll stay on top of emerging issues as we get to work on the 7.0 update. Now, here's the thing about the situation. Based on this post, there's two ways I can view it. Either they're going to be releasing 7.0 Tides of Torment in September, probably late September, or they're going to release it in October. But they do continue. We also want to acknowledge the growing conversation we see about the game's future beyond Tides of Torment. We've seen a few folk asking for specific characters that might not fit in any of our current DLC formats, so we are exploring how we might introduce a smaller style of DLC that brings a single Legendary Lord or hero unit alongside a few favored additions. Paid DLC? I mean, a single Legendary Lord as a DLC, I think that would be pretty solid, as opposed to waiting 8 freaking months for a DLC, but we'll find out. Maybe some free stuff. You know, Bretonnia could really use some more. Look, don't get me wrong. Lizardmen and Tomb Kings getting improvements, very much needed. But we look at Bretonnia, could use some improvements. We look at different characters. We look at Cafe, Beastmen, etc. Yes, Beastmen could use some improvements. Or Dark Elves. But here's the last statement they make at the end of this post, and it's just like literally at the very bottom. Oh, and the third faction for Tides of Torment is High Elves, led by Sea Lord Aislinn. And yes, we're very excited to show you more on that soon. You leave that for the very end of this blog post. Like, kind of like an afterthought of like what we're revealing. Yes, it's going to be High Elves. It's going to be Sea Lord Aislinn. We all knew that was going to happen. Okay? This is not a surprising turn of events, so I'm guessing that's why they decided to include it in a blog post as opposed to leaving people waiting for 1 more month or 2 more months, depending on how they're doing that, to share information, right? Or a month and a half, who knows, on that subject of Sea Lord Aislinn. So, yeah, it's going to be High Elves paired with Norska, paired with Slaanesh. Okay, and it's going to be the one character we all knew was going to be part of that DLC. I am left wondering who exactly is going to be the 4th character. Though, it is worth going back to the upper part of this post and talking about like how what they've revealed so far may not necessarily hold true. Because in their first video on the subject of Tides of Torment, they mentioned, it was kind of like a throwaway comment, if you will, but it was mentioned that they're going to do a free Lord for Slaanesh. Is that still going to be the case? I think it would make sense, right? Because they did one for Nurgle, they did one for Khorne. They haven't done one for Tzeentch, but that's Shadows of Change, being Shadows of Change. But I would expect that for Slaanesh. Though, keep in mind, we already have 2 other Slaanesh characters besides N'Kari, which is obviously Sigvald and Azazel for Warriors of Chaos, but I think it just makes sense to add an additional free lord for Slaanesh. Hopefully it's not another Skulltaker / Arbol situation where like the free stuff overshadows the paid stuff. Like, you know, I have different perspectives on all that, but I think you just gotta call into question a DLC when the free stuff just ends up being much, much better than the paid stuff, like in terms of campaign enjoyment. And I do think Arbol is much better as a Legendary Lord than Skulltaker in terms of playing him. Not power, I'm just talking like fun playstyle, all that kind of stuff. Anyway, that's all they had to share on this subject. What do I think about it? Well, as a player, it sucks. And I'm just going to speak for quite a few people, because I do know people who play Warhammer. I'm, you know, part of various servers, multiplayer communities, so all that. A lot of people are sick and tired of this waiting. Like, a lot of people right now don't want to play Total War. regardless of any free patches, because they were waiting for the next DLC, right? They want that new content. They don't just want updates to existing content, they want new content, and that's one of the things that I hear. And I agree with that sentiment. Like, as great as it is to rework Kislev, and as much fun as I had with that, it didn't give me the same excitement I would have had we gotten a Kislev rework when SOC came out. But, you know, that's already done. SOC was pile crap, but still, it is a problem. And this might be the longest wait period for DLC that we've seen in Total War for a very, very long time. I mean, there were some long periods of time. Like, people talk about, like, the period of time it took to release this DLC. I would like to point out, it took 8 months from Twist and Twilight to release Silence and Fury. And that was the last DLC of Warhammer 2. So if they had released Tides of Torment right now, wouldn't have been extraordinary. But the fact that they're delaying it even further, you just gotta wonder what exactly is going on in CA. Like, that's the real question. That's the thing that bothers me the most about all of this. Costin, signing out.